Love. Love is a chemical reaction. Noradrenaline, testosterone, dopamine, phenylethylamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and on and on. It reads like the formula for a bomb, and just as well. Both can render serious consequences if handled improperly. Speaking of which, Max Payne 2 is a perfect sequel.
What's going on?
The building's blowing up, that's what's going on.
What? What? I'm a collector.
October 2003. Remedy Entertainment releases the follow-up to their smash hit, Max Payne. Shortly after the first Max Payne released in 2001, mega publisher Take-Two Interactive announced that they had purchased the franchise rights from Remedy and 3D Realms for 970,000 stock shares and 10 million American dollars. In 2002, Take-Two offered Remedy 8 million smackers to develop Max Payne 2, and the wheels were in motion. Sam Lake, writer of the first Max Payne, returned to pen the sequel, as did the first game's director, Petri Järviletto, as the lead designer. The most prevalent themes of Max Payne as a series are at their thickest in Part 2. Choice, fate, heartbreak, and hope. Despite this being drenched in an archetypal, rain-soaked noir crime thriller motif, Max Payne 2 is, at its core, a love story. Mona Sax, the contract killer from the first game, returns in Part 2 as Max's forbidden love, and he hers. Though their romance isn't opposed by politics, religion, or family ties, given their opposing professions and dangerous affiliations, the two know that a life together is hopeless. It doesn't stop them from trying, though. The story of Max Payne is one of my favorites in all of gaming. That said, Max Payne 2 outclasses the first game. The dialogue is more balanced and mature, and although Max still lets slip the occasional poetic line, the script is much more seasoned and grounded. Characters now talk like actual people as opposed to, well, characters.
They're taking the fall, both of them. Payne was with her when she was arrested.
Who are you talking to? You're leaking information.
Bravura's too soft on you. I was informing the proper authorities on what they should know. Stay away from my case, Max. Stay away for your own good.
It's never corny or overtly maudlin, just bleak and heartbreaking. In my opinion, this is Sam Lake's best work. The tale itself is rife with betrayals, delicate alliances, and bloodshed. And although it has more swerves than Vince Russo's WCW, it's not hard to follow. The comic book panel cutscenes return, and they're even better. They're saturated with dark blues and inky black tones, punctuated with the occasional sanguine blood splatter or the brown leather of Mona's coat. You'll also notice that Max and Mona look a bit different this time around. Mona, who was portrayed by the lovely Carol Kyriakos in Max 1, is now being modeled by Kathy Tong. Given that Max 2 is more focused on an intense romance between two people, there's a whole lot more Mona in this one. And I mean a lot more. She's quite lovely, but it's not just the piercing eyes or the phenomenal waistline. She's actually the perfect counterpart to Max. Given how effective she is at taking life, she could have easily been written as a generic femme fatale, but she's been penned as similarly tragic, conflicted, and in search of redemption. She's also not written under Max as her big, strong male savior. There's nothing wrong with a good old-fashioned prince saves the princess tale, but Mona, if anything, saves Max from the proverbial castle at multiple points during Max Payne 2. And it never feels preachy or contrived. Mona is a proficient cleaner, but she wants to protect this man that she loves, and she's very good with the Dragunov sniper rifle. Sam Lake, the story's writer, famously modeled for Max in the first game, but is now portrayed by professional actor Timothy Gibbs. He's got the perfect look for Max's brooding voice. He's a handsome, stout dude with great expressions, especially when he's pissed and ready to take the gloves off.
I know of her. Her reputation as a hired killer. I hear she is a stone fox. I would fuck her.
Right then, I hated Vlad.
Max is teetering on the brink of the deep end in Max Payne 2, and the significant trauma and brain damage has begun to take a very heavy toll on the guy, and it's weaved into the sequel smoothly.
Bullshit!
Returning characters include Police Chief Jim Bravura, Vinnie Gognitti, Alfred Woden, and Vladimir Lem. They all play their part, some greater than others, but seeing as how the first two games are being remade soon, I'd rather not spoil the key plot points for those new to the series. New to the storyline is Detective Valerie Winterson, and she may be one of the best supporting characters in the entire trilogy. Again, because this game is very accessible and will be remade soon, I don't dare spoil her arc if you haven't already played the game, but suffice it to say, her path crosses with Max and Mona, and in the end, serves to cause Max further tragedy. The prominent blizzard backdrop from Max Payne 1 has been replaced by the classic noir themes of nighttime and heavy rain.
Jason!
And it fits perfectly. There's just something about this motif, as well worn as it is, fits within the thematic framework of Max Payne 2 magnificently. Max Payne 2 runs on a significantly beefed up version of the Max FX engine used in the first game. Even 20 years later, this game still looks gorgeous in motion. The team at Remedy took full advantage of the various flashy graphical enhancements available to them, like refraction, reflection, higher polygon counts, and vastly improved facial modeling and animations.
Mona?
Max, we gotta stop meeting like this.
The game still looks phenomenal, and when it first released was truly remarkable. The biggest addition, and one that Remedy utilized fully to complement the gameplay, is the addition of the Havoc physics engine. Almost every object and all characters are given the full benefit of this feature, and it makes playing Max Payne 2 an absolute pleasure. I love that Remedy wasn't trying to emphasize complete realism with the use of physics, but rather to emphasize the over-the-top action movie influences with plenty of conveniently placed objects and randomly placed explosives next to them, as well as the gonzo physics of enemies being launched backwards with small arms fire. The first enemy Max contends with is conveniently placed in front of shelves littered with several items. It's a small tip of the cap from Remedy, as if to give a small taste of the combat to come. Gameplay is, thankfully, the strongest aspect of Max Payne 2. As much as I love the graphics, they have and will continue to lose luster as the years go on and technology advances. But one thing you can never take away are the rock-solid gameplay mechanics. As much as I enjoy playing the first Max Payne, the shootouts in the sequel almost render the first game obsolete. Fighting enemies in this game is just so much fun. Max Payne 2 is very much like a sandbox. Sure, every time you play in it, it's the same toys and the same grains of sand surrounded by the same 2x4s, but your imagination is what keeps you coming back to the box. As mentioned earlier, the game utilizes the Havoc physics engine to great effect, and remember, this is before Half-Life 2 came along, so it was truly special at the time. Sending an enemy flying with a hail of 7.62, watching their hip violently extend backwards when you shoot them in the leg, and of course, seeing a group of the scumbags fly everywhere like party streamers after an explosion goes off next to them never gets old. And speaking of Half-Life 2, it's the same reason fighting the Combine is so much fun in that game. Enemies are fast, vicious, and react differently to each tool at your disposal. Every encounter feels dynamic. It's just so lively and entertaining. It's everything that a video game should strive to be. This is of course enhanced greatly with the return of bullet time, dubbed 2.0 by Remedy. The slowdown mechanic returned, and more bananas than before. Aside from a cool sepia tone that coats the screen when you trigger it, you'll also notice that the hourglass now turns yellow as you rack up kills in bullet time. You go from being able to simply slow time into basically becoming Quicksilver. As you rack up the kills, time slows to a near standstill for enemies, while you get to run around in real time, essentially turning Max into a superhero. Some people lamented this, and prefer the more or less grounded version of this ability from the first game. But I love it. Being able to smoke 4 to 5 creeps before the first one even hits the ground is the shit. And yes, I checked the options this time.
Fuck you.
It's apples and oranges, and I love both versions of Bullet Time equally. But man, I love playing Max Payne 2. And let me tell you, you're gonna need all the help you can get. Max Payne 2 is hard. Even on the default difficulty, enemies are incredibly quick, accurate, and determined to kill you, and they hunt in numbers. Use that bullet time, my friends, and use it well. This is another thing I love about this game. It's a challenging title, but it's fun because it never feels unfair, cheap, or broken. It's just difficult. And because of the aforementioned sandbox feel of the game, if I repeatedly fail the scene, instead of getting frustrated, I would simply swap tools and attack the problem another way until I was successful. And thankfully, there are no Aesir lobbies with grenade snipers or maze-like nightmare levels.
Stop, wait.
Stay out of this, Max. You're only making it worse. You've been suspended.
She's one of them. She's here to kill me.
I'm doing my duty. She is a fugitive murder suspect.
Max's nightmares do return, but fear not, because they're much easier to navigate and are still spooky and give us insight into Max's waning mental state. They're trippy and wild, but they're simple and they never overstay their welcome. They're great.
You must be. You gotta solve the case. We've been betrayed. You gotta find out who. Solve the case. Promise me. Promise me, Pete. Stay true to the badge. Find out who.
The rest of the levels in this game are awesome. Many people consider the game's length a detriment, and I will say I remember being surprised at how quickly I beat Max Payne 2 when it first came out, especially given how long the first game was. But I consider this a merit. Sure, I could keep playing Max 2 for hours and hours after completion, but the game's length is what it needed to be. There are no fluff levels like the cargo dock in Max Payne 1. Every level feels fine-tuned, unique, and fits perfectly into the narrative. Most importantly, the pacing of Max Payne 2 is leaps above the first game. The fat is trimmed completely. Max's apartment complex, the old Ragnarok club, swanky penthouses, and the dilapidated, labyrinthian Jersey apartments where the battle between the cleaners and the mafiosos rage on like Fallujah. And my personal favorite level, the abandoned funhouse, based on the in-game television series Address Unknown.
You have a tumor in your brain. It's making you mad. We're forced to operate aggressively.
They're all so much fun. And again, this goes back to pacing. The funhouse level initially has no combat whatsoever, and is literally just Max running around a spooky theme park. After the intense combat of the apartment building preceding this is the ideal way to rest and recuperate before the next battle ensues. It's wonderful pacing, giving the player a nice rest break that lasts just long enough before you get the urge to fight, and then, as if on cue, the action kicks off again. I'm also a massive sucker for funhouse levels in games, BioShock 2 being another shining example. This happens again in the police station after the level where you basically wage an all-out war with the cleaners in the high-rise penthouses. Max just walks around the police station after being told by his boss to go to his desk and write a report.
Pete's a guy under a rose bush in the backyard. There's a bloody chainsaw in the bathtub, and by the looks of it, they had been shot in your bed. The murder weapons have your prints all over them, and you say you didn't do it.
Hell no! I'm a fall guy! I've been framed! It's a setup! I was getting too close to the truth, so they had to get rid of me.
You can listen to a darkly hilarious conversation between a police officer and a lunatic, pester your colleagues, or fiddle with an air conditioning unit on the fritz, much to your fellow cops' dismay.
Hey, nice going, Payne. Good job.
And now,
if it was
Rules and
still
Ladies
summer,
continues.
you'd be a dead man right about now.
You better stop praying we won't get an Indian summer, Payne.
I tried to stop him.
Then, when all seems pretty rote, the action ramps back up with a bang. Literally.
Jesus Christ!
Bomb? That was a bomb! Upstairs now!
Jesus!
Upstairs now!
Something was off. Mona's work.
Max interacts with many more characters in this game as well. Mike the Cowboy and Vodka, sweet old ladies that blast thugs with shotguns, and the dream team of the homeless former cop, Rudy Brewer, and Violet, a sexy lady of the night in Max's apartment complex.
People trapped in here. Oh, the sons of bitches have locked the door. You coming to my rescue?
Something like that. We need to get out.
You could probably get out through a window on the 3rd floor, if you can kill the flames. A girl's gotta protect herself.
These characters are great because you can enlist them to help you, and they're not weaklings in need of an escort. They're both armed and ready to brawl. You can even issue them basic commands to follow or to hang back. They help to distract the bad guys long enough for you to get a leg up, and you'll even see them covering your escape from a high vantage point.
Man, I'm glad I called that guy.
The funniest example of this teamwork mechanic is when Max buddies up with a group of mobsters battling against the cleaners. It's hilariously silly. These guys are definitely not an Army Special Mission unit. They're a ragtag group of tracksuit goombas running headfirst into the fog of war, and it's paced to perfection. You get a few battles with SEAL Team Cannoli before one of their associates recognizes Max Payne, and it's right back to you versus everyone.
What is this? What the fuck are you doing with him? He's a cop.
Come
Max
out.
Payne brings any bells? What did you bring him here for? He tried to kill the boss earlier.
Nothing overstays its welcome. One last feature to mention, and this is a big one. The levels where you get to play as Mona Sax herself. Mona's sections are just as tough as Max's, if not tougher, and it really helps you to appreciate those moments when Max happens upon a trail of bodies in Mona's wake in the first few games. Mona is an efficient contract cleaner, but the construction site level where Mona provides sniper overwatch for Max as he's severely wounded and battling insurmountable odds also shows her soft spot for the guy. From a gameplay standpoint, it's also one of my favorite levels in the entire series, and it helps to add another layer to her character. There's really only one damsel in distress in Max Payne 2, and that's Vinnie Gognitti.
Oh man, why did it have to happen to me? Oh, it was so perfect. Now it's ruined. Oh no, no way.
Vinnie finds himself in a bit of a pickle and needs Max's help. The whys and what-fors of this level are darkly ironic, and with just the right amount of comedy so as not to overshadow the very serious danger he and Max are in, especially Vinnie's big, squeaky shoes.
Oh man, Payne, there's more of them out there. They're coming over the wall. You gotta get me out of here. You hear? You hear, you bastards? You're gonna die. You're gonna fucking die.
There's no other way to put it. The audio design in Max Payne 2 is essentially flawless. Kartsi Hataka, who composed the soundtrack for the first Max Payne, returns to helm the music of Part 2, and the decision to focus on stringed instruments for the primary themes was an excellent decision. The piano melody of the first game is iconic, and even Max gets in on the action. But the somber reverberations of the cello cast back the lovesick themes of Max Payne 2 impeccably. But it's not all doom and gloom.
Move that gigantic cotton candy! God damn it!
Some songs, such as Mona the Professional, perfectly exemplify the sexy bravado and fatal efficiency that the character of Mona Sax has not only against her enemies, but highlights the grip that she has on Max as well. It really nails the "I know I'm doing the wrong thing, but it feels so right" vibe. Weapon sound effects are all perfectly adequate, and everything feels punchy and powerful, as they should. Voice acting is spot on. Every character is well played, and I can't recall a single performance that was out of place or weak. Wendy Hoops portrays Mona in this game, and plays her to a T. Cold, efficient, deadly, but in love. James McCaffrey returns once again to play the titular hero, Max, and as in the first game, the guy nails the role. There are some brilliant nuances as well, such as when Max laments the death of a fellow police officer during a shootout, which is only triggered when you get close enough to his body.
Petersburg.
Little refined details go such a long way. All told, the sound design in Max Payne 2 is titanic. It's amazing. It's been roughly 10 years since I played Max Payne 2 last. And although I had completed 2 or 3 runs of the game around the time of release, there were several things that I had forgotten. I had more concrete memories of the first Max Payne, as I've played that game multiple times over the years. I remembered some of the highlights from Max Payne 2, and I remember enjoying it quite a bit. But playing both games back to back for these reviews, I am shocked at how much better I found Max Payne 2 over the first title. Literally the only complaint I could level at the game is the short length, but if I'm being honest, that's not even my complaint, it's just one that I read online a bunch of times. As mentioned previously, the time span is just right for what Remedy was trying to achieve. The title of the video really says it all. Yes, we could nitpick flaws, and there are certainly always going to be subjective complaints a person can have about any piece of art. And be mindful, this is when developers were still trying to make art.
God damn it!
As a sequel to one of the most beloved video games ever, Max Payne 2 is perfect.
Fuck you, you idiot. You're everything that America should be flushed down the toilet, you fucking turd.